Good morning. Thank you all so much for coming today. Now that I know we have a lot of extra time, I'll do my best to see if I can work the machinery here. My name is Mark Warner. I'm the Director of Energy at the Sustainability Institute and the Sustainable Jersey program. I'd like to talk with you about two things this morning. One is to spend just a few minutes putting EV adoption in a broader sustainability context, and then talk for just a few minutes about some work that we have underway with a lot of the folks on the panel here today about things that we're doing to help the municipalities engage directly in encouraging EV adoption in their communities. So at Sustainable Jersey, we think about sustainability with a capital S. It's obviously a very large topic, so we look at clean water, sanitation, land use, a whole bunch of different things. But as you might expect, and you can see from the picture, energy and transportation is a key part of that overall matrix. Number one, when you really look at what sustainability means and look at it in terms of risks and vulnerabilities and negative consequences, energy and transportation are a really big part of that overall landscape. And I think that's good news because that's mostly a man-made problem, and therefore it's a man-solvable problem or a person-solvable problem. And so there's two pieces of that. One is that energy and transportation themselves are a big part of the overall sustainability equation. And so any progress we make there really has a big direct contribution to sustainability. And second of all, everything else in that picture depends on energy. So if we want to build an overall sustainable environment, we have to build that on a sustainable energy infrastructure. So that's the context that we have for our sustainable energy work. This is a very brief sort of snapshot that gives you an idea of what the energy landscape in New Jersey looks like. Now this looks only at the energy pieces of greenhouse gas, for example, and it looks at the state level as opposed to regional and some other areas. On the left is a picture that shows the typical usage profile. The blue slices are the transportation pieces. The red slices are the heating-related pieces for our buildings, and the brown slice is the power sector, energy production and consumption. And it's just convenient. It happens to work out here in New Jersey. It's almost exactly a third, a third, a third. So within the state, about a third of our energy use measured at the point of fuel consumption is for purposes of transportation. That includes commuters, marine, everything. The picture on the right shows what the greenhouse gas components of that are. And as you've heard this morning, New Jersey happens to have a relatively clean power sector for a variety of reasons. And so therefore, the greenhouse footprint associated with that is a little bit smaller than a third because it's proportionally cleaner. But the interesting piece is that transportation is a big piece of that. So depending on exactly how you do the math, and again, looking at the energy-only piece, and with a boundary around New Jersey, somewhere between 40 and 50% of New Jersey's greenhouse gas footprint comes from the transportation sector. So I think that's good news because if you really stare at the overall sustainability problem, it's a huge, complicated problem, and it's going to require hundreds, if not thousands, of changes in the way we do things today to get to where we want to be by 2050. But transportation is the closest we've got to a silver bullet because it's that magic combination of a really big part of the problem, but it's also an extremely solvable part of the problem. The bad news would be if 50% of our greenhouse gas came from something that we couldn't do anything about. But that's not really the case. We have a very big piece of that pie that comes from things that we can really make a lot of progress in, not only today, but over the next few decades as well. There's a lot of reasons to do that. Many of them have already been talked about. I'd like to add one motivation to the arguments you've heard this morning, which is when you look at things from a sustainability perspective, we care a lot about where the primary supply of energy comes from. And one of the things that electric vehicles let us do is diversify our fuel supply. So right now, as we all know, civilized, industrialized life depends heavily on transportation and mobility, and almost all of that mobility comes from petroleum sources today. So we in essence have almost a sole source dependence on one of the most crucial parts of our industrialized infrastructure. And the result is, as we've all seen, whenever there's even small hiccups in that fuel supply, everything goes nuts. Well, one of the advantages of EV adoption is that now if you're being fueled by electricity, you can in essence now support your mobility with any of the very diverse sources of electricity that we have in the state, including solar. So I have a solar system on my house, and when I finally get my EV, I'm going to be a solar-powered EV. But it can come from the broad mix that makes up our power sector today, and that strategically is much more sustainable than the sole source dependence that we have today. So that kind of frames up the way we look at the problem. Let me talk a little bit about a program called Sustainable Jersey. We are a not-for-profit, and our goal is to help municipalities achieve their sustainability goals. And we do that through a program that provides a portfolio of individual actions that municipalities can take. Each one of those actions helps the township become a little bit more sustainable. And as they take those actions, they earn points and eventually leading to certification. So the nice thing about this program is it gives people an organizing framework, it gives them a very specific set of things that they can do, and we provide a lot of resources to help people accomplish those actions. And once they do that, they can achieve certification, they get a lot of visibility and acknowledgement for doing that, which is very important. And by being part of this program, they also have access to grants and funding, and we're very good at helping them take advantage of private capital and state incentives as well. So it's been a very successful program so far. As you can see from this graph, we now are up to 399 townships in New Jersey. So over 2/3 of the communities in New Jersey are part of the Sustainable Jersey program. That represents over 80% of the population in New Jersey lives in a Sustainable Jersey town. So this is now a 5-year-old program that's had an enormous amount of success and penetration. We currently have about 137 municipalities that are certified, and the balance of those 399 towns are working on their certification. So this gives us a powerful tool for working directly with municipalities to take action, tangible, boots on the ground, make changes in the municipality that people can see. We started this several years ago. We run a small grants program. We've now given out over $1.5 million to municipalities to do a wide variety of projects. We've done 3 grants for charger stations back in the early days when this was kind of crazy and innovative, but helped people see what it really meant. You can see in the middle picture there the very first EV customer in Montclair back in 2010. And we are now looking at how we can expand this program to really focus on EV adoption on top of the things that we're already doing. We already have been addressing sustainable transportation primarily from a fleet's perspective. That was a good starting point with our municipalities. So we already have actions that focus on improving your miles per gallon, adoption of alternative fuels, and so on. We are now going back and looking at the fleet program with a specific focus on non-petroleum alternatives. But more to the point of what we're talking about today, we're in the early stages of developing a program specifically for how can municipalities help encourage the adoption of EVs in their communities, beyond the operation of the municipality itself, but within the communities that they serve. We're going to be building on some of the materials that you've heard about this morning. The work that Cassandra and others have been leading is an incredible set of resources. We're not going to invent this stuff. We're mostly going to steal shamelessly. But what we can do is put it directly into the hands of people that can put it into action and have it show up in a real way in people's communities. So we're going to be working with all the folks that you see up here and others to assemble many of the materials and resources that exist, translate that into a very practical program that municipalities can take action on and get their EV adoption up in their communities. So just at a very high level, we will probably be doing some short-term things around outreach and awareness building. A lot of the studies today are people still are not aware of this stuff, so just awareness building has a big impact. Public charging stations, not just public, but others to the point that Rob was making earlier, as well as starting to roll out some of the best practices regarding codes and ordinances, which is kind of the next step beyond that. So we believe that this is sort of a sweet spot for us in the sense that it's a big part of the sustainable energy problem. It's a very solvable part of the sustainable energy challenge, and it's an area where municipalities can have a particularly large impact, and that's what we do really well. So we're really excited to be working with all the folks that are up here and to be putting that program together with the hope that over the next couple of years we can really enable a lot of very tangible activity at the municipal level for community level EV adoption. I don't think I actually went over too much.
Great, you did great.